last meeting, the board requested that staff come back with some information on increasing the current tax relief for volunteer fire and rescue personnel. Currently, the ordinance as of 1993 provides for members of the Nelson County Volunteer Fire Department Rescue Squads be exempt from paying taxes on the first $5,000 of assessed value on their personal property tax bill. The chief or captain of each squad or department shall provide to the Commissioner of Revenue by June 1st of each year a certified list of all members who are eligible for the exemption during that year. The qualifying volunteer must have completed 100 hours of volunteer activities during the preceding 12 months. The value of the current FY24 tax relief in total is $67,301. The first $5,000 is in assessed value is equal to tax relief of $139.50 per exemption. Each $1,000 increase in value exempted equals a 20% change, or $27.90 in tax relief per exemption. We provided you with a chart that shows the current $5,000 exemption going from each $1,000 increment up to $10,000, and what that equivalent total tax relief would be, and the equivalent tax relief per exemption. This is provided for under State Code Authority of Section 58.1, 3506, and also Section 11-5.1 of the County Code. So we have provided you with this information, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it. And also we have provided a resolution that would authorize a public hearing on increasing this tax exemption. But we would need to advertise an amount. So that would be a decision of the board.
All right. Well, put 100%. We get a lot of volunteers real quick.
My turn?
Yeah.
So thank you for putting this on the agenda. This was something that I had brought up a while back to the treasurer. And just a little background, this $5,000 amount that we currently have was set back in 1993. So we haven't changed this in a long time. It's well overdue. In talking to the Commissioner of Revenue, and I'm texting her now, I was hoping she might be down there able to answer a question. But number one, I definitely want to go with the far right column. But in looking at, I like the way Albemarle does it, where they have a flat dollar amount. And I'm pretty sure Pam was saying that it would be easier for her office to facilitate if it was just a flat dollar amount. Because if you do, if you do the $10,000 value and you've got a volunteer who drives an old beat up truck that's worth $500, it's not worth that much to him. Whereas if we do a flat dollar amount, it's even to all of them. I propose that rather, Pam, she sent me the code of Virginia. Thank you, Pam. Yeah, that's not helpful. I propose that we look at maybe doing a flat $300 credit and the vehicle license fee for a total of $338.75 per volunteer.
Okay.
I mean, we're looking at, because even at this level, my original proposal was that we increase it from $5,000 to $20,000 credit, because how many, I live right across from the firehouse. I see the trucks in the parking lot when they're gone to a fire. There's not many trucks worth less than $15,000, $20,000 in the parking lot. Everybody, they all have a nice truck. So at $10,000, that's still low, I think. But at $10,000, that would be a $279 tax relief per volunteer, plus the $38.75 for the vehicle license fee, for a total of $317.75. I would propose, I don't know, just throwing that out there, that maybe we look at a flat amount.
I think that makes.
I like doing a flat fee.
Yeah.
I think that
It's equitable
does
too.
make good sense. I think $300 is easier to do than 317.
Well, the reason I can't, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I know why you're there.
Yeah,
But that way they have the, they have the voucher which they can apply, as they see fit.
But David, who's gonna monitor this?
the treasurer's office would, just like they monitor it now. And then yeah, they do.
The individual departments.
The individual departments send in a list of who their volunteers are, yes. And then the treasurer's office applies that to the vehicle license fee. They get one vehicle with no vehicle license fee, and then they have to do the calculation to apply $5,000 of the value of their vehicle. And if they only have a $1,000 vehicle, then, they max out. If they have a $20,000 vehicle, then they pay taxes on $15,000. So it's work that the treasurer's office.
What I'm saying
Commissioner Brown.
is there's individuals that don't deserve crap. They don't do nothing. And it just because they're on the list, and then you get the others that do.
It would be something that the individual departments would have to supply the list to the county.
According to this, the chief or captain of the squad or department would provide the commissioner of revenue the list.
Right.
And the captain or chief has to verify that the volunteer has completed at least 100 hours.
Right.
During the last year. So I think that,
Well, it's just loosely, what do I wanna say?
Monitor, monitor.
Yeah.
But it's something, that is it's something that's already being done. We're
Yeah.
not starting something that we're not already doing.
Right.
We're already giving everybody, or, the list is being provided by the individual departments to the Commissioner of Revenue now. All we're proposing is that we adjust the dollar amounts. That's all we're looking at here, is adjusting the dollar amount. And I think these individuals, I was looking out, what day is it? Today's Tuesday. I guess it was yesterday morning. I got up, go outside at 5:15, walk the dog, and the parking lot's full at the firehouse at 5:15 in the morning. Those guys are out there freezing their butts off, taking care of the community. I think this is something that they deserve.
Candy, how would we adjust the resolution if this idea was, if the board wanted to do that? Mr. Payne, do you have any comments on that?
I think you could just amend the in your motion to approve the resolution, saying as amended to include a flat dollar amount credit or voucher for qualifying volunteer fire and rescue squad members.
I don't have no problem
We
with
can
that.
adjust
If
that wording.
the leadership of each department had a set thing of what, well, if you just give it to everybody in one department and the other one, they don't, they've got,
Yeah, we have to rely on the captains and the chiefs
well, that's what
to,
I'm saying, it just,
know who's done the 100 hours of volunteer activities in the last 12 months and go through the list and certify it. We
there's
have no
very,
way to.
there's very few. Unless you just,
And I'm sure once we schedule the public hearing, we'll get more details on that as well, how they want to monitor it and all that. This is just a public hearing authorization.
That's correct.
Um,
And you can make changes after the public hearing. as
right,
well.
right, exactly.
and
So
maybe we can get some of the chiefs here to
Yeah.
talk about it, which would be great.
that would be good. You can bring this up at the next council as well.
Yeah.
and I don't think it's brought you one member.
And whether or not that's true, I think the ones who are there deserve it.
Oh, I don't disagree with you, David, but you can go down each roster and probably a very small percentage, and you've got some that just, they live there.
Right. And then you've got some who just have their name on the roll to get the T-shirt and hat. I get it.
Yeah,
But this is something that the chiefs could monitor, and have a set expectation for how many hours, and they document all that. You know, they have the records to show.
But most times the chiefs ain't gonna have, they've got enough going on without doing that. They just need to have somebody within the department that, I don't disagree with what you wanna do, but it just, God, the abuses just burn me up.
Yep.
All right. So, any other thoughts? I'd like.
So how do we have to, if we're
So,
going
if
to
you-
approve the public hearing, how specific do we need to be on the end result that we want? If right now, we're between two different ideas, and we have
If we were ignoring the first idea of making it the percentage, and we wanted to do that flat rate, what would that sentence be?
I think all you gotta do is say that you're gonna do something with a discount.
Well,
And then if you wanna go,
Phil, do you have a sentence you want us to say?
I think you would say you would change the exempted amount of assessed value of one vehicle for eligible volunteer fire and rescue squad members from the first 5,000 of assessed value on their property tax bills to a flat rate of whatever dollar amount you'd like to advertise in tax exemption.
but the problem is, Candy, too, that, you know, you've got this volunteer that is worth this, and you got this one up here that is, you know,
I mean, we're not gonna be able, and I don't think it's within this board's kind of purview to try to decide which member has done more than the other. But for us, it's just designate who did 100 hours. And if the chiefs come back to us with a better suggestion, such as 200 hours, 300 hours, maybe there's more to that. But I think if we just leave it currently as it is with as Mr. Parr stated, with the 100-hour plus.
And at the end of the day, what we're proposing here in no way can compensate those volunteers
No.
for what they give and give up
No.
for the work
Yeah.
that they do. So
mean,
at least this is something, and we just have to rely on those reporting
Yeah.
to have honor in their reporting, and I
Yeah.
don't question that whatsoever. But I just don't want us to approve a resolution, you know, I want to make sure that we're having the right public hearing.
Right.
All right. Proposed amendments to section 11-5.1 would grant a tax exemption of X dollars on the value of one vehicle for eligible volunteer fire and rescue squad members.
Okay, and we're gonna be inserting, you wanna say 300, why don't you just round that up to 350?
we've always, when we first started this, we started at 300, didn't we?
Yeah, we started at 300, but, Mr.
Well,
Parr,
I started at
$300.
$338.75, because I was at 300 for the tax relief.
Yeah.
And $38.75 for the vehicle license fee. That's where I was.
So the vehicle license fee is under a separate section,
Yeah.
and we wouldn't be changing that.
Yeah.
So the only section we're changing is the personal property tax relief.
correct,
Okay, then I just say we make it 300.
300, okay. All right,
I'll second.
is that a good enough motion for you guys? Sounds great.
Okay.
We have a second motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a vote, roll call vote. This is sending this to a public hearing. So we'll do a roll call
For
vote.
January 9th.
For January
7 PM.
9th at 7 PM, yes. Roll call?
Mr. Harvey?
No,
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Parr?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes. All right, so, moving on to school zone speed enforcement, R 2023-79. Candy,
Oh, we don't have anything, okay. All right, we don't have anything on the screen for that. So the board has had several presentations from Blue Line Solutions on the automated speed enforcement concepts. You held a public hearing to get the public's input on that, and then it was tabled for a bit. And then at the last meeting, it was requested that it be reconsidered at today's meeting. We don't have any additional information to provide the board. We've provided you with information you've already received previously. The resolution that we have provided here would allow for us to proceed, would allow me as administrator to execute all related program agreement documents upon review and approval by the county attorney. Phil has not yet reviewed the agreement because I didn't want to have him do that without knowing whether or not he wanted to proceed with it. If you have questions, we can answer questions to the best of our ability. And if you feel like you need more information and you need Mr. Hodgson, the representative, to come back and answer questions, we can certainly arrange for that to happen as well before you decide.
Before we get into any questions, do we want Sheriff-elect Mr. Embry to come up? Mr. Embry? Any questions for Mr. Embry? Mr. Embry, is there anything you'd like to add?
I've had multiple conversations with Mr. Hogston over the course of the last several weeks, including a webinar late last night. I had some specific questions about this program that I wanted to make sure I was absolutely aware of and any concerns that we had. The biggest concern that I had, Mr. Chairman, was what, if this is approved, what workload would this generate that would basically tax our agency personnel-wise that we would have to at least monitor that. And I've been ensured that any workload would be minimized. I have spoken to several other sheriffs from other jurisdictions across the Commonwealth that are currently engaged and under contract with Blue Line. These sheriffs represent counties, Southwest Virginia, also Central Virginia. I've had no complaints from these sheriffs, and I've spoken at will. Our neighbor to our south, Buckingham, is currently in the research development stage of looking to do this for their school zones. Keep in mind, these other agencies do not have the traffic volume in their respective jurisdictions that we have along our US 29 corridor. So we are looking at significant higher traffic, potentially violations, if you will, that our office would have to process and approve. That's basically where I am. In speaking with Mr. Hogston last night, he assured me if you do want him to come back, he is happy to do so. He could not make it today. But based on all the data that I have, and thank you, Ms. McGarry, for getting that over to me, I know where we stand as an agency and what we would have to do. And right now, we would be prepared, if you vote on this today or in the future, and this is approved, we would be able to handle the operation at will. If you do decide not to go with this program, it has always been my intent to make sure our school zones are as safe as possible and for speed reduction. And I refuse to waver on that. So we will, if this is not a solution, I assure you we will have marked units out in our school zones both morning and afternoon. And I'm happy to answer any other questions anybody has of me. Yes, sir.
Somebody brought up a comment today that is contrary to what I thought the way this worked. Said that if the individual doesn't pay their ticket, that the county is still responsible. And they said 40%, but I know that's not right. That number was wrong, I know.
10%.
But who is responsible? If someone is, they're caught going through, and they get the ticket and they don't pay it, are we still responsible for paying that money to Blue Line?
Unfortunately, Mr. Hogston would have to answer that. I do not have the
I
answer
thought
to
that was a question we had brought up before, and we weren't responsible. That they get a percentage of what's collected, not a percentage of what is assessed.
Okay.
But,
Candy.
you know, Candy?
I might be able to answer that question to a degree. So in the contract, it says the municipality shall be responsible for reporting unpaid citations to the Department of Revenue in accordance with statutory requirements. If applicable, Blue Line Solutions will assume this responsibility with written authority provided by the municipality. So they will do collections for unpaid tickets if we want them to, give them that responsibility. I do believe that they, let me look in the contract here, but I do believe that they assessed $25 out of every
Yeah, it's-
100.
Yeah, it's
Regardless of if
25%.
it's
Yeah,
paid.
because somebody, earlier it was at 40, and I knew that wasn't right.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's 25.
Regardless of whether the person pays or not, they get $25, right? And then
We don't know that.
The
That's what we're trying to
municipality
answer.
says, okay. Municipality agrees to pay BLS a fee of $25 per processed speeding summons, which will be subtracted from the municipality's gross receipts of paid summonses.
Paid, so that
So-
implies that the dollars and cents were received.
Yeah, so you pay.
So on an individual basis, on an individual summons basis, you still have to pay the $25 whether that person pays their summons or not.
Right.
They're gonna withhold that $25 fee, from the receipts of the paid summonses as a whole. See what
Wow.
I'm saying?
So they're taking their fee no matter what,
Right,
even if the dollars and cents weren't paid. So,
yes, on an individual summons basis, that's correct.
Wow.
That's the way I interpret that.
Yeah, and that wasn't.
I don't think,
understood it.
yeah, I was gonna say, that wasn't how it was presented.
I thought they got 25% of what we collected,
Yeah,
not 25% of what we should.
because,
Yes, it's per processed speeding summons. So if they process it, they're gonna keep the $25.
Some, I
That's the
know,
way it
I
reads.
can understand that, this takes a certain amount of man hours to regulate speeding from the schools, but, to privatize this, to give a incentive for it, it worries me. We get involved in that sort of thing. I mean, this is a violation of the crime. The government is responsible for that. To privatize this leaves all sorts of opportunities for malfeasance. I just, it worries me. I know you favor this because you want to protect the children, but that's our responsibility and the responsibility of the government and our sheriff's department, not of a private company. I'm just, really reluctant to have speeding tickets be privatized. The incentive, is to have as many as possible. It worries me. I understand why you're in favor of it. It takes a certain amount of man hours, et cetera. But that's our responsibility, not some private companies.
Yeah, excuse me, yes, sir, Mr. Barton, I understand, and our agency will provide that security if this governing body rejects this proposal by Blue Line. We are prepared and we will provide adequate law enforcement services, making our school zones safer. I assure you of that.
Yeah, I know that.
Mr. Reed?
Backtracking just a little bit, we met and talked about this, and I was concerned that our SROs, are able to stay on site while children are getting on and off the buses. And that was something that you told me you were going to see, that they would continue to be there at that time.
That is correct.
Yeah, because that to me, at a time when students are all free and have access to each other and all sorts of things, that seems to be a time where you want to have an SRO officer, welcoming and saying goodbye and being part of that process. And I think that's a really important thing to have in terms of SROs. So that being said, I still am looking pretty favorably at this. The reason I am is, although what Mr. Barton said is true, don't dispute that at all. The tools that we have to make the transportation corridors in the county safer, are limited. And having staff to be able to monitor that, you know, to some extent depends on staff, it depends on priorities. And the staff does have responsibilities to fulfill above and beyond traffic stops. So, this to me is one of the options that we have, both on 29, especially in my district, on the 151 corridor, to make, you know, the intersection at the Rockfish Grammar School safer. And that's also gonna make the entire corridor safer during that time. The signage, although it won't be flashing all the time, the signage will be up always. And that signage will inform people that speeding is not a good idea in that corridor, no matter what the circumstances. And I would love to see a safer corridor on 151. I think this can do that.
Yes, sir.
That's my comment.
Mr. Parr, do you have anything to add? All right.
Not at this time.
That's well. So, yes, Candy, before I go.
No, I was just gonna reiterate to the board, even though you've had a public hearing which wasn't required, you don't necessarily have to make a decision today.
Yeah.
Just reiterating that, it was asked to be put back on the agenda for more consideration. You can discuss it, obviously, as many times as you'd like. And,
That's what we do. You know, just to kind of go along with what Mr. Barton indicated, you know, I believe that when you start putting badges on robots, it starts setting a bad precedent. You know, as many people I've lived in my life, you know, discretion is a very important thing. Justice is an important thing, and you know, a person who speeds through a school zone going 40 miles an hour over deserves to go to jail. You know, they don't need a $100 ticket. They need to be duly gone through the justice system. Now, in that same tone, you know, a lot of the other side of that is how do you prove the person's driving? This was a question that was asked to them, and it's a hard thing to prove. You know, you get, I guess I assume it's a picture, whatever that may be. But suppose you have a bunch of construction crews driving through. They're going, you know, 15 over. I don't know which one of my guys owes me $100. You know, well, part of that is just, you know, when they speed, obviously, and they have an error, they get the ticket. You know, not me. So I think along those lines, I have a lot of questions. When it relates to, you know, the monetary side of this, they stand to realize a lot of money. They stand to realize lots of money. And to Mr. Barton's point, whenever you start combining for-profit methods with government agencies and then law enforcement, it gets very complicated and it blurs lines that shouldn't be blurred. I don't look at, you know, I believe Sheriff's Department and I believe law enforcement has a very important job in keeping people safe. That is their job. I know there's been prior boards discussions that, you know, tickets and everything else is a money-making scheme. And not scheme, it's the wrong way, but it's a line in our budget, and we talk about it, and we build budgets based off of it. When I think of that, it's like, wow, so we're counting on X number of people to have committed a crime for us to collect money. I know, they pay all this money, and so, but at the same time, it's about the safety of the people. How is it that we see the safety of the people is important? Mr. Barton has also brought up another important point on when you had for-profit prisons and the state of that, what that meant and what historically that has led to so many prisoners in unjust situations. I just don't like blurring those lines of corporations and government. So, Mr.
My
Barton?
turn?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll let you go.
So, badges on robots. That was good.
You like that one?
Yeah. So, to me, this is not a legal issue. This is simply a safety issue. This is not law enforcement. This is safety enforcement. So, you know, that's the big picture of how I feel. You know, this is not going to be this is the insurance guy talking. This is not going to be a point on your driver's license and your insurance rates are going to go up because of this. That's not how this is enforced. This is simply a visual and a slap on the wrist for speeding through an area that no citizen should be speeding through at any time, much less when those lights are flashing. And I have a real pet peeve with people speeding through school zones. But I understand, you know, the concern. If this was going on your driving record and counting against you for insurance purposes, I understand what you're saying. This is simply a way to bring, with the lights and everything, making it, you know, a statement that this is a zone that you should not be speeding in, and the word's gonna get around locally, and you're gonna slow down, and the people that are just passing through, you know, they shouldn't have been speeding through it's our kids, it's our families. But I personally don't think we should take any action on this today, because I want a better clarification on the $25 fee and when that is due, if it's deducted out of the $100 we collect, and they get 25 and we get 75, or are they standing to collect all these $25 and we don't get a penny because nobody paid it, for example? So I say we wait.
So my question is, from what you said, these people from out of state, why would they pay? Why would they pay?
Maybe they don't. I didn't pay mine. I got in Washington DC, so they might not pay it. Okay, I got one driving
But
through
that's still
DC.
gonna cost the county $25.
We don't know. That's what I just said. I want to know the answer to that question before.
I think we did. Is that the answer?
I don't know. I'm reading.
Well,
I'm
the
not
thing
sure.
is-
Do you-
$25 per summons, I think
Yeah.
they get paid regardless of whether we.
Yeah, and if that's the case, I'm not crazy about it. I mean, I like the idea, of, you know, if we collected 75, every time they collected 25, I'm thrilled. If not, not so much.
I think we ought to decide the issue right now.
What's wrong with us
Clearly,
waiting till we
it's-
ask a question and get an answer? It's not gonna hurt anything.
Because I won't be here.
Exactly. It's all about you, Mr. Barton. All about you.
This is his meeting.
And
We're
the
just part
argument-
of it.
Well, I've always, you know, you said you're on the other side of the table. Well, somehow you think you're supposed to be different side of the argument. But I want to think about what's rational, what makes sense. I mean, breaking the speed limit in a school zone is against the law. And at what point are we gonna say, we're gonna hire private companies to determine this? It's a dangerous precedent. I mean, they try, you know, the idea, I remember when the idea of private prisons came up? That was a disaster. You know, it was a disaster on every level. I think because I'm here and might talk sense to you people, we ought to just kill it right now and not wait.
So I've got a suggestion. And that is, you know, our sheriff-elect is committed to making these corridors safer. And if we can have a presence in those areas, make the corridors safer without having to contract with Blue Line Solutions, I'm all about that.
And we can do that, sir.
I know it's a challenge, and I know that it's gonna be difficult. Our past sheriff had big difficulties trying to be able to, you know, staff and have that done. But I'm willing to put this on your shoulders and take it off ours.
Well, I'm happy to wear the load of this,
Yeah.
if given that opportunity. So, we will be out of school, we'll be back in session January the 4th. We will be in office at that particular point in time, and I welcome the opportunity. We will have staffing available to handle this. And if this comes back on the table later in next year or in the future, I'm open to discuss it.
How long, no, we didn't have to do a public hearing on this, so we're
No,
not
we-
required to do it, and we've had 2 presentations already, maybe 3. So, yeah, so, and if there are any other questions, we can get those answered at the time, but I'm happy to not take action on this.
What do you think, Tommy? You
What do
gonna
you-
ready to vote against it?
What did you say?
I said I'm happy to not take action on it, in other words,
Just
don't
leave it alone.
Leave it alone and table it for now, and see.
And not give me the
And see what
opportunity to
happens.
vote against it? And you could bring it back later if you want.
Yeah.
I would like the opportunity to vote against the idea of the privatization of our government.
Then
Well,
make, make a motion.
I make a motion to deny it.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Deny what?
To deny the speed cameras in the school zones. We have a motion.
I don't understand his reasoning. What we talking about? Enforcement? Who was gonna do the enforcement?
Yeah, who's gonna do the we have several issues here. One issue is, who's gonna make the people pay the $100? We're gonna charge, for every person they get a picture of that is speeding over 10 miles over the speed limit, and they get $25. Now,
But that's not,
we don't necessarily get any of that. Now, if that person happens to pay,
yeah, but.
we
you're
get
saying
75.
If the person doesn't,
We still gotta pay 25.
yeah, I don't know, I don't like that deal.
Okay, well, he made a motion to deny Blue Line Solutions, the camera system. We still need a second.
I mean,
To deny, second to deny,
what?
to say no. We need a second to say no.
Oh, okay. Well, right now, we could study it more, I mean,
Exactly. I agree, Mr. Harvey.
Okay. We don't have a second at the moment.
I'll give you a second.
We got a second. So the second is to deny it. Oddly enough, we could still bring this.
No, it's a second, and
It
it really doesn't say what I.
Second doesn't mean anything. You get to
Right.
vote however you want.
Exactly.
Okay, so for the understanding that a second, or that the motion on the table is to deny it, we will do a roll call vote.
Mr. Harvey?
Well, I mean, what am I supposed to vote?
Voting yes denies the cameras.
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Parr?
No.
Mr. Reed?
No.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes. Whew. Almost need another recess. All right, moving on to the next item on our agenda, transient occupancy tax rate.
Well, this has been a fun day.
Just loaded up, last meeting of the year.
Thanks, guys. Transient occupancy tax. I think this will be about the third or fourth time we've had this on the agenda.
Okay, while Amanda's getting that ready, just want to give you an update on the timeline of this topic. We've had the public hearing on ordinance O-2023-02, which would on increasing the transient occupancy tax from 5% to 7%. This was held on May 9th, 2023, and action was deferred. And just noting here, 7% is the maximum rate that can be considered by the board at this time. The ordinance was the ordinance was considered at the July 11th, 2023 regular Board of Supervisors meeting. A vote was taken and the motion to adopt the ordinance failed on a tie vote with Mr. Parr being absent. As later advised by Mr. Payne, with no motion to reconsider having been made by a member of the prevailing party, which in this case was those voting no, at that particular meeting, then any member, regardless of the prior vote, may again at a subsequent meeting move the adoption of the ordinance on the same subject. Then at the November 16, 2023 rescheduled regular board meeting, supervisors directed consideration of ordinance 2023-02 be included on the December 12, 2023 meeting agenda. So included in this summary is an annual rate and revenue comparison. Currently at the 5% rate, our FY24 estimated revenue is 1.8 million. Each increase in percentage of tax rate is a 20% increase. So a 6% rate would yield 360,000 more in relation to what our currently budgeted amount is. Going to 7% would be a 40% increase and would yield an estimated $720,000 more in revenue. Just to note, per state code section 58.1, 3819, 3% of the first 5%, which equates to 60%, must go towards tourism, with the excess over 5% being unrestricted. And in the box below, we have the current TOT rate of 5%, our estimated FY24 revenue of $1.8 million. The 60% restricted for tourism equates to $1,080,000, and the unrestricted revenue is $720,000. The next box below that shows you what the restricted and unrestricted amounts would be at 6%, at the 6% rate, and then at the 7% rate. So at 6%, we would have an unrestricted annual revenue of $1,080,000. At the 7% rate, the unrestricted amount is $1,440,000. Going on to the next page, we just provided some area transient occupancy tax rates as of July 1st, 2023. These are posted on the Virginia Department of Taxation website. Nelson, since 2002, we've had a 5% rate. Albemarle County, since 1985, has been at 8%. Appomattox County, as of 2021, is 2%. Amherst County, at 2017, is 5%. Lynchburg, as of 2021, is 6.5%, and a $1 per night additional fee. Campbell County, as of 2012, is 2%. Augusta County, as of 2021, is 6%. Rockbridge, as of 2020, is 10%. Buckingham County, as of 2012, is 2%. And Fluvanna, as of 2023, is 5%. And speaking with the Commissioner of Revenue, she recommends making any changes to this rate effective in the month of January. She said each November, the Commissioner's Office gets the transient occupancy tax package together to be mailed out in December. According to State Code Section 58.1-210.1, related to the effective date and state code compliance and publication of local transient occupancy taxes, the public tax assessing officers are to provide the Department of Taxation with at least 30 days notice prior to the effective date of any change in such rate. Any change in the rate of any local transient occupancy tax shall become effective no earlier than the first day of the calendar quarter following the calendar quarter in which the change in such rate is enacted. Therefore, if our ordinance O-2023-02 is enacted today on December 12th, the soonest it could be effective would be February 1st, 2024, given immediate notice by the Commissioner of Revenue to the State Department of Taxation. That date would provide 30 days notice and is also after the first day of the calendar quarter following enactment, which is January 1st, 2024. Typically, several months lead time in implementing a change would allow for the Commissioner's Office to revamp their forms and tax package for distribution and provide for ample notification to the State Department of Taxation pursuant to this code section 58.1-210.1. And would also allow for adequate notice to taxpayers and third-party intermediaries such as Airbnb and VRBO. Just as a point of interest, our conflict of interest provision, State Code Section 2.2-3112B3, concerning prohibited conduct concerning personal interest in a transaction. The exceptions in Section B state an officer or employee of any state or local government or advisory agency who has a personal interest in a transaction may participate in the transaction if it affects the general public generally, even though his personal interest as a member of the public may also be affected by that transaction. Are there any questions before you all discuss?
I just wanted to add to the list of localities, TOT taxes, Charlottesville is 8%.
Charlottesville's what?
8%. Same as Albemarle County.
Since 1985.
So I will point out too that this does not account for, in terms of the revenue estimates, it doesn't account for anyone that may drop off because of the increase. It's just a straight application of the percentages to the current estimated revenue. So there may be some impact, as was noted before in public comments. I think that's a valid point.
It's hard to believe those little fees can add up to that much money.
Yeah. And also the fact that the money's being paid directly by, visitors and not being assessed to the citizenry directly. And I think that's a real important piece of this. As y'all know, I'm in favor of raising the rate. The biggest concern I have is the timing. If we decide to pass this today, as arguably we might, and I would be in favor of doing, we'd have to set the time for when it would be implemented. And it's possible it could be implemented to the next budget cycle. If we wanted to defer it longer than that, then we could also defer our decision on this until we have our budget discussion. What I know is going to happen in our budget discussion is we're gonna need additional sources of revenue. And I think I'm not going out on a limb to project that. The school assessment through the raise of the composite index is gonna give us at least a 13% increase without any other additions that we might see coming from the schools. The cuts that we might have to look at in order to keep our property tax equalized would have to be very significant. Whether we could implement this in place of a property tax increase, it looks to me that even if we were to look at, the basic funding level that we did this year for the schools, we would still need more than this to be able to make up the difference. I am in favor of this. I'm in favor of us passing. I would say a 2% increase is what I would look to. That's what we had on the public hearing, to 7%. That's what I would be in favor of doing. It's possible that we could be looking, in March at our budget in June and deciding we didn't allocate enough. I think it's totally unrealistic to think we would feel sorry that we had the extra revenue, because I know we're gonna be able to use it. So, I'm in favor of the 2% increase in the TOT tax. I would be open to talking about when to implement that, whether we implement that for the full budget season or for a portion of that. I know that it is difficult for our vendors to be able to deal with changes that they're going to have to put in place for reservations that are already made. So we have to, I think we definitely need to be considerate of that. Spring is a busy season, summer's a busy season, fall's a busy season, winter's not. So, no, winter's a busy season too, I take it back. They can all be busy. Anyway, I'll cut it there.
Mr. Barton, or Mr. Parr?
It's a pure misconception that this is a tax on the people of Nelson County. It's not. It's a tax on the people who come to Nelson County to recreate. And if you see this as a 2% increase in the price that the people are paying for the opportunity to recreate, I question that will change anybody's mind of whether they'll come to Nelson County. What this 2% does is an opportunity for Nelson County. And also I appreciate the idea that, you know, in the long term, there might be need for the revenue. I'm not ignorant of that. But I see this 2% as maybe going towards the recreation of the people of Nelson County. I can see that $770,000 would increase the amount of money that the Nelson County could borrow, or just apply that $770,000 to this recreational facility that I think could be really important for the people of Nelson County. And for that reason, and for the reason I believe that obviously bed and breakfasts or TOTs or whatever they're called are highly money-making, or so many people would not be involved in doing them, that would not hurt them in the least, and might help the people of Nelson County have a better life and more recreation.
Mr. Harvey, Mr. Parr?
I'm sorry I missed the July meeting. I was getting a new hip, but my feelings on this issue have not changed. This is beating a dead horse. We voted on it before. It would have been a 3-2 vote if I had been here in July, so that's all I have to say.
Mr. Harvey, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay. All right. My vote has not changed. Is there any motions that the board would like to make at this time?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion, increase the TOT tax by 2%.
All right, so you want to do O 2023-02 as presented, right, Candy?
Right.
Correct.
That is the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Mr. Reed. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we will do a roll call vote.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Parr?
No.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
No.
We do need to specify an effective date.
Candy, do you have a recommendation on that?
I'll just throw out that possibly July 1st, which would be the next fiscal year, could be a reasonable effective date. And that would give plenty of time for notifications to the state, and also Airbnbs and third-party intermediaries that collect the tax.
That's fine with me.
I would concur.
All right, so there, you all amend your motion. Mr. Parr, or Mr. Harvey, you agree with that? Okay.
So July 1, 2024. All right, thank you.
Right. Moving on to reports. Candy.
All right, this is fairly short and sweet today.
Yeah.
All right, in terms of our comprehensive plan, our website, www.nelson2042.com. Final draft of the plan was tentatively scheduled for delivery to staff by December 7th. I've been told that this may happen at some point next week now. Our public hearings to be held by the Planning Commission are scheduled, I think, for late January, and then the Board of Supervisors will hold one in February. And that's that's it for that. The Piney River Solar LLC special exception in Amherst County has been further deferred until February 20th. The Service Authority has gotten under contract with their term engineering contract. The selected firm was CHA out of Roanoke, and a meeting date for the scoping of the PERs is to be coordinated. Staff will advise the board again of the cost of the proposals for this work when established. And this is again to evaluate the potential reservoir and water treatment plant at Dillard's Creek on the Larkin property, and also the overall Livingston water and wastewater systems. Have an update on the Nelson County Service Authority Blackwater Creek Reservoir dredging project. The Service Authority is in the process of obtaining the necessary permits from DEQ and the Army Corps of Engineers. And this would be in order to proceed with their planned reservoir dredging at the Blackwater Creek Reservoir. Involved in proceeding with getting these permits is the need for a disposal site. As a path of least resistance, the Service Authority staff have inquired about use of county-owned property in the Henderson Store area at 1288 Jenny's Creek and Piney River for disposal of the dredged sediment. This property is 22.83 acres in size and contains 3 abandoned sewage drying beds that are a little over an acre in size that would be a very suitable place for the disposition of the dredged sediment. On December 11th, which was yesterday, Jeremy Mars, our Erosion and Sediment Control Program Manager, met with NCSA staff on site to discuss their plans and the county's expectations for Project ENS control and compliance should the county grant its permission. After the site visit, Mr. Mars reported to me that, in quotes, there did not appear there would be any issues regarding erosion and sediment control if we allow the Service Authority to use the property for this purpose. There also did not appear this process would create any unwanted damage or liability to any other portions of the property. All applicable applications, documents, and fees will need to be attained and approved by our department for the erosion and sediment control portion of the project. The Service Authority and I have already discussed the process. This is Jeremy speaking, and they are aware of what is needed. As you all are aware, the capacity of this reservoir that serves Livingston, Shipman, Colleen, and Piney River is diminished by the buildup of about 1 acre in sediment since its construction in 2004. According to Service Authority calculations, dredging this material would restore this capacity by about 2.4 million gallons. Having resolution to the disposal question enables them to proceed in the permitting process. So therefore, with the board's concurrence, I would like to provide the county's written permission for the Service Authority to use the approximately 1 acre area consisting of 3 abandoned sewage drying beds on this property for disposal of the dredged sediment. So, love your advisement on whether or not we should proceed in giving our permission for them to utilize that property for that purpose.
You need motion now?
She could probably just take a consensus.
Sure. Do you have any questions?
I could always tell it was a Jeremy email just based on the depth.
He's very thorough.
Yeah.
I spoke with Jennifer Fitzgerald at the Service Authority this morning, and she said that as stated in the report, was very accurate. She agreed, and also speaking as the Service Authority Chair of the board, I think this is a great, that it couldn't have been a better site and a better opportunity for us to have one without having to jump through numerous hoops, as well as finding location and an appropriate location, which this certainly is. So I'm certainly in favor.
I mean,
Concerns?
I have no problems with it.
I'm just wondering what it's gonna smell like. I mean, is it just mud? I mean, what are they dredging?
It's,
It's the reservoir, so it's already treated
Okay.
with water, I
Yeah.
believe. So it's just sediment and sand that's washed
Yeah.
down the stream.
I'll be interested in how they transport it, how sloshy it is, but.
Yeah. and they'll-
Well, there is some question about that, whether we'll be able to do it in-house or we have to contract someone
Yeah.
How you're gonna do that.
to do it, because you'll have an excavator going on and you don't want the excavator to sit there waiting a little bit while they dump and come back. So we'll have to figure out the most expedient use of our resources in terms of doing that.
All right. I'm fine with that. Mr. Parr, are you fine?
Yeah.
Mr. Reed, Mr. Harvey? Sounds good. I think you got a consensus.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, Route 151 corridor study update. VDOT has initiated the online public survey on the updated plan that will be live through January 2nd of 2024. This survey can be found at a web link that's in my report on the VDOT website. It's very long. The survey flyer with this link and a QR code to access the survey are available on the county's website as well. Next, on the presidential primaries, the county's registrars received notice from the Virginia Department of Elections that the Democratic and Republican parties of Virginia have both called for presidential primaries on March 5th, 2024. And with the DSS building, a kickoff meeting with PMA Architects was held last week to review the space needs, the budget, and to discuss the process going forward and discuss the draft schedule. So our next meeting will be held on January 16th, in which we'll review a preliminary floor plan and also discuss preliminary building interior and exterior design concepts. The preliminary schedule includes presentation of a schematic design and budget to the board sometime in March, presentation of design development and budget to the board sometime in June, and then a presentation of final design and budget for the board's approval to bid the project in September.
Another year.
Yes, the bids, which could be in our favor, actually, in terms of interest rates and costs of construction. The bids would then be issued sometime in October and received in November. Staff will be working with Davenport and Sands Anderson on financing options and timeframes in the coming months for that. You all have received all the department and office reports for November, for December, sorry, I didn't change that, with your packets. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Candy at this time? Thank you, Candy. Board reports, Mr. Parr. Mr. Reed?
Just one, the DEQ assessment of the Hatton Black Creek drainage areas for water quality is ongoing. They're gonna have a meeting on the 10th of January, which I'm gonna have to miss because I'll be out of town. But I've been in touch with Nisha McCrae, who's the DEQ representative, who's handling the public meetings and the intermediary between DEQ and the county on this. I reminded her that Dillard Creek was part of the extended watershed, which includes Hatton Black Creek. They drain different areas of the mountain area, but they all, focus down on the same watershed. And she let me know that there already has been some biological monitoring and water quality parameters of the Dillard Creek watershed, which I wasn't aware of. And she says they look good. A few samples have elevated phosphorus concentrations, but that's kind of par for the course for this area, which is why the meetings were initiated initially with DEQ. So she wasn't aware of the Dillard Creek study and project perhaps going forward, so now she knows. And she's going to, they do have a monitoring station just upstream from the 29 bridge on Dillard Creek, so there will actually be some information there that the engineers might be able to use. So that's my report.
All right, Mr. Harvey? Mr. Barton? Jail board.
The jail board didn't meet last week, they're gonna meet tomorrow, and basically, Thursday. Basically, they're gonna vote the same thing we voted the last time, that, to go ahead on the planning.
Okay. Just had the PDC meeting, nothing too major to report there. Moving on to appointments. Appears that we have Andy Wright. He hasn't responded to us yet.
He's not, we've made multiple attempts, I'm trying to utilize some other contacts to get in touch with him. But he has been emailed, snail mail, voicemail.
Interesting.
I'm not sure if he's interested, we have advertised
Gotcha.
it, but we
Well-
haven't gotten any applicants.
Keep advertising.
And then that's it until we have organizational appointments in January.
Gotcha. All right. Correspondence, Mr. Parr,
Have none?
Mr. Reed,
Nope.
Mr. Harvey,
Oh,
Mr. Barton. Directives, Mr. Candy.
Sorry, I forgot to mention in my report, Dr. Hester asked me to let you know that the school board provided these beautiful poinsettias for you all that were grown in the horticulture department at the high school, and happy holidays. Sorry, I forgot to mention that.
what are they gonna do with them?
I don't think I've ever been given poinsettias before.
What are they gonna do with
This is
them?
the first time someone's
Just
ever
let's
given me
take it home.
flowers.
Take it on.
Be nice. Yeah, that's what
I'll
I'm saying.
talk to Devin
Don't
about
want
that, yeah.
I don't know if we can get it.
All right, we're not done. Directives, Mr. Barton.
Yeah, I don't know if it should be in the way of motion, but, I would like to thank, Sheriff Hill for 8 years of service. I have no instances where people have said to me that the people work for him or him treat them with disrespect. So I'd like to make a motion to thank him for his 8 years of service to the people in Nelson County.
Thank you.
Is anybody second?
Wait,
I'll second. We're voting on it?
we're voting, do we have to, I mean, we all agree, you know, we thank him for his 8 years for his service. I mean, I don't understand
Yes,
what,
I think we should.
all right, make
Well,
a
he-
motion. So
know,
you want a letter? What do
gave-
you want?
Look
Do you want a
what
letter?
you gave me. You gave me all that thing.
Do you
which
want,
is-
do you want a letter? Or do
No,
you-
well, a letter of thanks could be that.
A
I think
resolution.
that would be-
All right, we got a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a vote by acclamation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, there we go.
So much to do a letter,
Just letter of thanks.
letter.
All right, Mr. Harvey,
What?
do you have any directives?
Yeah, we need to spend some time to thank our cohort over here for the time that he has put in.
Yeah, write him a letter.
Uh,
I make that motion.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I don't know.
Now you got a letter.
I wasn't through yet.
All right, Mr. Harvey's got some extra in there.
For the, I mean, Chip has been very responsive to this county. And I have never seen the first incident where something else took over what should be the best for the county. He's always been right on line with what's best for the county. He's been an excellent member. I've enjoyed having him on the board. And we wish him the best in anything he does.
I mean,
His
those
future,
guys,
his
I don't-
future aspirations.
I don't think he'll forget.
Tommy,
the
I
county.
thank you for that. It means a lot from you. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
It's a
I mean,
I know you did. That's what's amazing.
All right, look, you got a letter in the mail coming to you. Thank you, Skip. Mr.
I'm
Harvey,
finished.
anything else? Mr. Reed? Mr. Parr? I have no directives, all the letters were written. Closed session, I meant to ask, though we have someone who's elect, and this is an elect supervisor coming on board, at what point is it gonna be pertinent that they're included? Because this is pretty big.
January 1.
January 1? Okay.
Well,
That's true, she's not-
delay,
Yeah.
the money is still where it has been.
So no matter what, it doesn't matter. Okay, we're good. That answers. You could shoot. Okay,
It takes Campbell County 6 or 8 weeks to respond.
got it.
We don't have Appomattox full.
Got it. All right. That answers their question before we go into closed session. Sorry, you'll get looped in January. All right, we need a, Bernie, start reading.
I move the Nelson County Board of Supervisors convene in closed session to discuss the following as permitted by Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3711. Consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members pertaining to actual litigation where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body. That is litigation pertaining to the Region 2000 Services Authority. And consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. Nothing in the subdivision shall be construed to permit the closure of a meeting merely because an attorney representing the public body is in attendance or is consulted on a matter.
All right, closed session. Y'all